Welcome to this explainer. So I want you to think of your brain not just as an organ, but as an incredibly complex computer operating system. I mean, think about it. Every single night, this system has to power down, run some intense background maintenance, and then reboot itself for the next day. And, just like the laptop sitting on your desk right now, sometimes that biological operating system has a glitch. So today, we are going to explore exactly what happens when your biological software misfires. But first, let me ask you a quick question to start us off. Have you ever been, just peacefully drifting off to sleep, and suddenly you are jolted awake by a massive, literal bang inside your head? Or maybe you've woken up in the morning completely paralyzed, unable to move a single muscle, with that terrifying feeling that someone is standing right there in the room with you. Well, if you answered yes to either of these, I want to reassure you right now, you aren't crazy. Your brain isn't broken. You've simply experienced a hardware misfire. All right, let's start with phase one, powering down or falling asleep. Okay, let's dive right into this. A massive 70% of people experience what science calls hypnic jerks. You totally know the feeling, right? You're drifting off and suddenly your whole body just slams awake, like you missed a step on a staircase. So, what's actually happening here? Well, as you fall asleep, your muscles naturally begin to relax. But your powering down brain occasionally glitches and misreads that sudden loss of muscle tone as actual falling. So it fires this massive jolt of electricity through your body to catch you. Some researchers actually think this is an evolutionary leftover from when our ancient ancestors slept up in trees, where a sudden drop in muscle tension literally meant you were about to have a very, very bad night. Now, let's map out the biological chain reaction for something called exploding head syndrome. This is that loud bang I mentioned earlier. Step one, your brain powers down, which usually involves quieting your sensory processing really gradually. But sometimes, step two happens. That sensory quieting process just misfires. So instead of a slow feed, we get step three, where your auditory neurons discharge all at once. Your brain interprets this massive, simultaneous firing of neurons as a literal gunshot or a cymbal crash right inside your skull. But here's the thing. Despite how absolutely terrifying it feels, it causes zero physical damage. It's literally just a system error. Which actually brings us to another transitionary glitch, hypnagogic hallucinations. As you're falling asleep, your brain doesn't always switch cleanly between states. Your dream circuitry actually starts generating signals early. We're talking flashes of light, weird geometric patterns, or even the distinct sound of your own name being called. And because your conscious mind is still partially online, these signals just bleed right through. You're basically seeing and hearing your dreams right on the very edge of wakefulness. Moving on to phase two, maintenance mode, otherwise known as deep sleep. 66%. That is a huge chunk of us. That's the percentage of people who experience somnoloquy, which is just the fancy technical term for sleep talking. If you've ever felt super embarrassed because a partner told you that you were babbling in your sleep, you can totally relax. You are in the vast majority here. It is incredibly normal. And if you're worried about what you're saying, don't be. Think of it like this. It's just your brain leaving its microphone on. A lot of people are terrified they're going to spill their deepest, darkest secrets while sleep talking. But the truth is, you cannot extract real, coherent information from a sleep talker. Your brain isn't running a conscious monologue. It's just producing completely meaningless verbal fragments from partially active networks. Now, we absolutely need to clear up a massive misconception here, the profound difference between a nightmare and a night terror. So, a nightmare is just a frightening dream that you wake up from and can actually remember. But a night terror, completely different beast. It happens during deep, slow-wave sleep. It is a state of totally unconscious physiological panic, where a person's heart rate can hit an astonishing 180 beats per minute. They might literally be screaming with their eyes wide open, but they are not fully awake. And the wildest part, when it's all over, they just go right back to sleep and have zero memory of the event the next morning. So, this unconscious physical activity can actually escalate into sleepwalking. Sleepwalking is what's known as a disorder of arousal. Basically, the brain gets partway out of sleep and just gets stuck. The motor system is active, so you can move, but your consciousness is completely turned off. Now, the absolute most important point here is that last one. Sleepwalkers are not acting out dreams. Dream enactment happens during REM sleep. Sleepwalking happens in deep, slow-wave sleep when dreaming is practically non-existent. The brain just starts doing something seemingly purposeful, like trying to make a sandwich in the kitchen, but it's completely disconnected from any dream narrative. Okay, on to phase three, system overload, or what happens during sleep deprivation.
17 hours. And look, that is not some crazy multi-day bender of staying awake. That is literally just one slightly long day. But studies show that after just 17 hours without sleep, you can begin experiencing microsleeps. These are involuntary episodes of complete unconsciousness, lasting anywhere from 2 to 30 seconds. Your eyes might be wide open, you might be sitting totally upright, but internally, your consciousness has just vanished. This is exactly why drowsy driving is so incredibly dangerous. You literally cannot detect your own microsleeps because, by definition, you are unconscious when they happen. And this brilliantly illustrates how your brain attempts to fix that deficit through something called REM rebound. When your REM sleep is suppressed, say you had a few nights of awful sleep, or maybe because you drink alcohol, which suppresses your dream cycles, your brain keeps a tally. The first good, uninterrupted night you finally get, the system goes into absolute overdrive to recover what it lost. It dramatically increases your REM sleep, producing these bizarre, overwhelming, and emotionally intense dreams. It is quite literally your brain collecting on its sleep debt.
All right, phase 4, rebooting. Let's look at waking errors. Okay, put yourself in this scenario for a second. You wake up, you are completely conscious, but you cannot move a single muscle. This is sleep paralysis. Step 1, you regain consciousness. But step 2, the mechanism that paralyzes your muscles during REM sleep, so you don't act out your dreams, it persists. Your body just hasn't unlocked yet. Now look at step 3. Because you're lying there paralyzed and super vulnerable, your brain's threat detection system absolutely panics. It quickly concludes something outside of you must be causing the paralysis, so it actively generates a hallucination to explain it. This is exactly why people across centuries and different cultures report seeing an old hag or a creepy shadow person sitting on their chest. It's terrifying for sure, but it is an entirely manufactured biological illusion. So let's contrast two of these directional glitches. Earlier, we covered hypnagogic hallucinations, which happen as you fall asleep, while hypnopompic hallucinations happen as you wake up. The dreaming circuitry just doesn't fully shut off before your consciousness returns. But here is the critical difference. Because you are in the process of waking up, hypnopompic hallucinations are utterly indistinguishable from reality in that moment. Your brain's reality-checking systems are still coming back online. So if you wake up and see a giant spider on your bedroom wall, your brain processes it as 100% real. But hey, even without the scary hallucinations, waking up is never an instant process. We call this lag sleep inertia. It's that awful feeling of complete brain deadness when your alarm goes off in the morning. Cerebral blood flow is still low, and your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that handles rational decision-making, is literally one of the very last regions to come back online. This is the exact scientific reason why making important decisions, or even just deciding if you should hit the snooze button, is a terrible idea right after waking up. Your prefrontal cortex literally hasn't booted up yet. And then sometimes the boot sequence just straight up lies to you entirely with a false awakening. This is where your brain runs such a flawlessly convincing simulation of your morning routine that it actually fools itself. You dream you've woken up, gotten out of bed, and started getting ready for the day, only to suddenly realize, wait, you're still in bed. These happen mostly during REM sleep, when the brain most closely mimics waking consciousness anyway. It can create an incredibly unsettling loop of fake mornings before you finally break through to actual reality. Which brings us to phase 5, the ultimate hack, lucid dreaming. Now, what's really interesting here is that we've covered a lot of terrifying system errors today, but let's look at the one glitch you actually want to happen. Surprisingly, the majority of people, 55%, report experiencing at least one lucid dream in their lifetime. This is the incredible state of being completely conscious and aware right inside a dream. And yes, science has definitively confirmed this is real. Researchers actually asked lucid dreamers to move their eyes in a specific, pre-agreed pattern once they realized they were dreaming. And because your eye muscles aren't paralyzed during REM sleep, those exact signals showed up perfectly on the EEG monitors. They literally proved they were awake inside the simulation. So, how exactly do you get admin access to your own operating system? Well, here are the established techniques. First, reality testing. This means checking your hands or reading text repeatedly during your waking day to build a habit that eventually carries over into your sleep. Second, the wake back to bed method. You sleep for a few hours, wake up briefly, and go right back to sleep to enter REM directly. And third, the mill technique, which involves setting a very specific, focused mental intention to recognize the dream state right before you drift off. Your brain is just an unbelievably complex machine, perfectly balancing its power-down sequences, its deep maintenance routines, and its morning reboots. And yeah, it glitches. But honestly, those glitches